Today we are going to talk about Spanish bureaucracy. I've got a list of vocabulary that will be useful to you if you are living in Spain, hoping to live in Spain, moving to Spain, dealing with Spanish bureaucracy in any way. So let's go. Hey everybody, it's Daniel. Welcome back to my sofa in beautiful Barcelona. The other day I went to the police station and I got this. It is the Spanish passport. Finally, I am fully Spanish. And I had this brief fantasy where I was going to be finished with Spanish bureaucracy, but that's not how it works. I'm just doing new types of Spanish bureaucracy at this point. This is a big topic of conversation. We all do it. You deal with the government a lot out here because the government, it's Europe. The government is just involved in your life in a lot of ways that in the US it might not be. So let's talk about the vocabulary you will need to deal with Spanish bureaucracy. First, let's talk about papeleo. Papeleo is just paperwork. Papeleo. You know the word papel. Papel is paper. Papeleo just makes it sound like there's a lot of this. So you use it to talk about bureaucracy, red tape, stuff like that. More formally, you would say burocracia. Bureaucracia. A lot of words in Spanish and in ia. This does not. This is burocracia. Sorry, a lot of words in Spanish and in ia, they've got an accent over the final I. This word does not. It's burocracia. The strong syllable is a. Burocracia. There you go. We also have pasaporte, the word we started with. Pasaporte is passport. That is, very general. Some of this vocabulary is going to be Spain specific because we have specific things that we do here that if you go to Mexico or Chile or something, it'll be different institutions and different processes. But, pasaporte should work for you anywhere. We have DNI. DNI is DNI. It is your documento nacional de identidad. This is your, national ID card. It's something that Spanish people have. DNI. If you are a foreign person living in Spain, hopefully you have a NIE. NIE is the Número de Identificación de Extranjero, the foreigner ID number. Número de Identificación de Extranjero, NIE. A lot of people use NIE to talk about the card. Officially, NIE is just the number, not the card, but I've used NIE 1,000 times to talk about the card. They'll give you an ID card as a foreigner if you actually live here. And that's your NIE, or more correctly, your TIE. TIE is tarjeta de identificación de extranjero. So TIE, tarjeta is a card and, the rest is the same. But I guess like German people and Italians who want to live in Spain, they just get a letter that has their NIE on it, and then they can move around with the letter and with their ID card from their own country. People from other countries in the European Union have a very easy time moving around Europe. Also, something that Americans often object to, but you're going to be giving your NIE number or your DNI number to a lot of different things, like it's just a number that people use to identify you. I guess it's a pretty safe system, like identity theft is not a huge thing or anything, so you're just going to give this number out. That's life. If you are traveling to Spain, you may need a visado. Visado is officially like a stamp fixed inside your passport that lets you into the country. It's a visa. A lot of people use visa to talk about the permiso de residencia, which is a residence permit. They're different things. A visado lets you in the country. The permiso de residencia is what lets you live in the country. So visado de turista is a tourist visa. Americans don't need a tourist visa to come to Spain, but other countries do. Visado de turista. You could have a permiso de residencia, which is, it's going to be written on the back of your NIE, actually. Permiso de residencia is residence permit. Mine used to say permiso de residencia autoriza a trabajar. Autoriza a trabajar, meaning you are allowed to work. There's also the non-lucrative visa. A lot of people coming to Spain on the non-lucrative visa these days. In English, we call it the NLV, but in Spain, it's probably the VNL, visado no lucrativo. I believe there's probably an official name for this, which is something else, but in the common parlance, visado no lucrativo. So that lets you in the country, it lets you live here also without working. I wrote an article a couple of years ago about the digital nomad visa. That definitely has an official name, which does not include the word nomad. But the digital nomad visa, I guess you could say, visado de nómada digital. I think the word digital nomad is kind of dumb, but that's another thing. The word expat has been adopted in Spanish, so you sometimes see it in the news, expat. This refers to like professional people who move to Spain for high-paying jobs. Otherwise, you've got the word inmigrante. Inmigrante is an immigrant. The definition of who exactly is an expat and who exactly is an immigrant is, of course, controversial. Not going to get into it here. Inmigrante is an immigrant. Notice it's in and not im. Inmigrante, in, like migrating in. Inmigrante, and then expat is just somebody who is expatriated. Other words you're going to need to know. We have extranjería. Extranjería is an immigration office, or sort of the organization, the government organization dealing with immigrants. The names of the ministries tend to change with some frequency. Like a new government will form and they'll just rename the ministries and like add different types of, this one is now about immigration, but it's also the environment and social inclusion and like women or whatever. So I have no idea what ministry exactly I'm working with most of the time, but extranjería is just the, foreigner's office, let's say. Another useful one is comisaría. Comisaría is the police station. Comisaría. If you have like your wallet stolen or something, you probably need to go to comisaría to, file a report or whatever. After that, some useful expressions for your immigration processes or, other. Pagar una tasa. Pagar una tasa is to pay a fee. A lot of times you pay these fees to the government. You have to go to a bank, actually. You pay someone at the bank. This makes it so the government employee is not able to just charge you whatever they want. You pay at the bank, and that way it's out of their hands. So pagar una tasa is to pay a fee. A government employee, by the way, is un funcionario, or una funcionaria, I guess. Un funcionario, una funcionaria, depending on the gender of the person. Funcionario. We have the word functionary in English, but it's not very common as far as I know. At least in American English, it's not super common. Here in Spain, becoming a funcionario is like a dream that many Spanish people work very hard to achieve because it's a stable job. You get paid every month and you're unfireable mostly. You can't be, laid off or fired unless you do something really, really stupid, which is, virtually impossible to make it stupid enough. There was a case a while ago, some guy in Valencia who was a funcionario had not showed up to the office in 10 years or something, and just nobody had noticed. So, that level of stupid might get you fired, but it's pretty hard. More vocabulary here. We have pedir una cita. Pedir is ask for, and cita is appointment or date. You could have a cita, like a romantic date with somebody, but we're talking here about bureaucracy. So una cita is an appointment with, the bureaucrat who is going to deal with your case. So for a lot of different things, you have to pedir una cita. So you go online, it's this awful system, pedir cita. Another thing you will see is con cita previa. Con cita previa, you might see it, on a paper outside some government office what that refers to is that they will only talk to you if you have an appointment. You could also see the word cita on like a hairstylist's or something. They could have a number to call or a WhatsApp to call for citas. Con cita previa is with an appointment to, sit there and do your trámite. Okay, trámite is another word we need to talk about. Trámite is a bureaucratic process, a bureaucratic procedure. Un trámite. If you're able to check on the status of your procedure online, it might say en trámite. En trámite means that they're working on it. They are processing the paperwork. En trámite. But, un trámite is the process. We have anular una cita. Anular is, we have the word annul. I guess in English, we'd probably say cancel. To cancel an appointment. Anular una cita. We have, we're going to be using nombre y apellidos. I talked about this a while ago. I now have 2 last names because I am fully Spanish. Nombre y apellidos are your, name and your last names. You'll be filling that in on government websites. I guess since we're here, fecha de nacimiento, your date of birth, fecha de nacimiento. Cumpleaños is like a celebration. Tengo un cumpleaños este fin de semana. I'm going to somebody's birthday party this weekend. Un cumpleaños. But if we're talking about the fecha de nacimiento, that comes from the verb nacer, which is to be born. Fecha de nacimiento, date of birth. We have solicitud. Solicitud comes from the same verb solicitar. It is an application form. Rellenar una solicitud is to fill out an application form. So that's another thing. You have justificante. Justificante could be several different things. Justificante could be from a doctor, like a doctor's note saying why you can't go to school or whatever. In the Spanish bureaucracy, if they say justificante de la cita, it's written proof that you have the appointment. You have to print out a paper with a confirmation number so that they know you have an appointment. You may think they could take a look and find out who has appointments and who doesn't, but I've had big problems because I did not have the justificante de cita. So, if they ask you for that, make sure you print it out. We have expediente. Expediente is a file, generally. Expediente. Back in the day, the TV show The X-Files was, I believe, called Los Expedientes X, something like that. X is the letter X and expediente is file. So expediente. A couple of other random things. Poner la huella. Huella comes from huella dactilar. It is your fingerprint. You may have to go to the police station to do some fingerprints for your ID card or whatever. If you are renewing your NIE, you have to go one day to poner la huella, and then they make you wait 45 days or whatever for your new card. Poner la huella. So huella is the fingerprint, and poner because you're just pressing it on a glass fingerprint reader. Poner la huella. And finally, certificado digital. If you're deep into Spanish bureaucracy like I am, I'm self-employed and stuff. I got to file all my taxes over here and do all kinds of other stuff. You may need a certificado digital. Certificado digital is a digital certificate. It's like a line of code where you have to, go to some office, identify yourself, and then download this line of code to your computer. It gets stored on your computer somewhere, and it is used to, sign into government websites. It's a positive identification so that I'm not filing the taxes of someone else or whatever. Certificado digital, digital certificate. We may have a system like this in the US at some point. I have no idea. So hopefully that was useful to you. That is some bureaucratic vocabulary in Spanish. Please like and subscribe. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions about Spanish bureaucracy or anything else, really. I'm happy to answer your Spain-based questions here. Just leave me a comment below. I have much more here on the channel. I have my podcast, Spain to Go. I have other videos about Spanish vocabulary, grammar, and culture. A lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff. So check all that out. Enjoy life, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Hasta la próxima. Bye.